Let's talk a little bit about the security situation. This is always a risk for any host city that brings the Olympics to their doorstep. What do you think the impact might be, not just going into the weekend, as the French transport minister warns, but in terms of the longer-term effects as the Olympics play out?
I actually think that the attacks that we've seen are kind of inevitable. I posted on Twitter last week about this. The games are taking place in the context of a very, very sensitive environment, not just an external environment, but also an internal environment too. The fractious politics of France, as we've seen over the last 3 or 4 weeks, have played out quite dramatically. And a lot of attention has been paid, if you like, to kind of the hard targets of the Olympic Games. So infrastructure, and where you've got large congregations of people, clearly where it's more difficult to control these things, and perhaps where there's been less attention is on soft targets. And so attacking railway lines that are outside Paris, I think probably falls beyond the scope of the official security measures that are in place. But of course, those soft targets, nobody's been hurt, we don't think, and nobody's been physically affected. But of course, the disruption that this causes is immense. And if we want to think about this in economic terms, you think about all the people who've been delayed and all the people who now need to be moved and all the time that is being wasted. If we think about those official events, if people are having difficulty getting to these events, so the start times of these events have to be delayed. That has scheduling, TV scheduling, legal ramifications for sponsors and so forth. So these soft targets may not seem particularly disruptive as such, but they are incredibly powerful in the kind of wider impacts that they have.
Well, Simon, again, we'll go into the economics of Olympics specifically, but this isn't just a geopolitical situation in terms of we just had Bonnie Quinn out of Washington talking about kind of the pressures around the Israel-Gaza situation, American politics. You have Ukraine and Russia far more of a touch point here in this part of the world as well. All at a time when the French government is still very much in chaos. Emmanuel Macron talking about the fact that we don't want to solidify who's going to be the leader of parliament until after the games to ensure that there is kind of that continuous or that continuity in French governance. How much of that is actually taking place?
One thing that I would say is the people who are organising the games and the relationship with government, my sense is the French have been incredibly professional, have been thinking very expansively, ambitiously. Keep in mind that for Macron, this has really been an opportunity for France to project itself across the world. And Macron's very, very keen for people across the world, not just to see the traditional France, kind of fashion and culture and the Arc de Triomphe and Eiffel Tower, but also to see a new France, an outward-facing, externally engaged kind of Gen Z type France. And so the French have worked very, very hard at doing this. But I think internally there have been some inconvenient truths building. And obviously those fractious politics that we've already talked about are part of this. And so the national mood has, to an extent, undermined what is now taking place around the Olympics. And that has raised all kinds of issues, not least of those security issues. And we've seen, for example, controversy around the French banning their female athletes from wearing hijabs in competition. At the same time, we've also seen Macron inviting Israeli officials to the Elysee Palace to light Hanukkah candles. And so there has been some really quite negative sentiment in certain communities across France. At the same time, as you rightly point out, we've got several flashpoints. We've got Ukraine, Russia, we've got Palestine, Israel, we've got ongoing issues around international terrorism in generally. And so this is like a perfect storm for what we're now beginning to see evolve.